First things first, I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. This is Spicy Friday, we like to call here at First Things First. No idea what it means, but
no one does.
No one knows.
It's one of Chris's many inventions that we just smile and go along with.
And we go for it. It is Friday. We made it through a week. We had some fun Thursday night football last night.
Yep.
I mean, it was a good rivalry. The teams aren't in the same place, but it was a fun game. We're going to discuss that and so much more, but we are going to start with a different aspect of the NFL after a week of increased NFL pregame demonstrations. We're talking Colin Kaepernick. Players league-wide knelt in response to criticism from the president. Many have wondered when or if Colin Kaepernick would resurface in the NFL. Yesterday, Panthers quarterback Cam Newton spoke about the movement. Many say Kaepernick started.
You know, my hat goes off to the Colin Kaepernicks of the world who you know, he's made the ultimate sacrifice, and I respect that wholeheartedly. And I can't let a moment go by without shedding light to that. You know, a person that does have the talent to play, a person that should be in this league, but I feel as if he's not getting his just due because of his views. But that's a legend right there.
Cam Newton, one of a number of players who have come out in recent weeks in support of Colin Kaepernick. Nick, I'm curious, what was your reaction to his comments?
Well, first of all, I was curious to hear it from Cam. Cam, despite being not only one of the faces of the league, but this is obviously a story that is cloaked in race, Cam being one of the two most prominent black quarterbacks in the league, has sat this one out for the most part.
Yes.
He's been a guy that has not, I think part of that has to do with the man that owns the team, Jerry Richardson. I think part of that might have to do with where his team is located, and it might have to do with the fact that Cam, much like other prominent athletes of the past, might just not have strong opinions on this stuff and say, I am here to play football. I am not equipped to have this discussion. So Cam coming out in support of Kaepernick surprised me. Now, people I know, because people are disingenuous with things, they are going to seize on the fact that he said the ultimate sacrifice. And the ultimate sacrifice in life or in a military sense is always talking about soldiers that die. Right. So if we can, that was maybe a poor choice of words. But what he meant,
well,
I think...
The ultimate sacrifice as an athlete.
There you go. That's exactly what I was going to say. The ultimate professional sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice that a football player can make, which is taking a stand that Kaepernick knew could cost him his job. I don't think he thought it would cost him his job. And I've been thinking a lot lately about what our friend Jenna Wolfe keeps mentioning, because other people are mentioning as well. Why won't Cap talk? How could, at this point, if he's unemployed...
At this point,
and that's what why won't he talk? Right. Why won't he talk?
When everyone else seems to.
When everyone else is, and when it would appear he has nothing to lose, right? I mean, he's not employed. And I think Colin Kaepernick is, and it's something that I've grown to, I think, respect even more, is he is, it would appear, making the point, I'm not going to kiss any rings, and I am not going to ask for my job back, because I shouldn't have to. And if I don't get a job, it only makes my protest, my cause, resonate more. And so Colin told you he wants to play football.
Yes.
You told us he's in football shape.
Yeah, he's in amazing shape.
He go ahead. I'm
wants
sorry.
To play. Well, now we know he wants to play NFL football.
Wants to play NFL football.
He doesn't want to play football. He only wants to play in the NFL.
Well, there's.
And the backstory is just that.
There's a lot of guys that would play in the NBA but not go to Europe.
But then we're not talking about a lot of guys. We're talking about Colin Kaepernick. His agent was. They reached out to his agent and
approached him with the CFL.
The Montreal Alouettes.
Yeah.
They have his rights. My son played for Montreal for 3 years. Every person playing in the CFL, including my son, Duran, this will be his 4th year there, they're playing in the CFL for a reason. It's because they can't get on to an NFL team. And/or, I would say 99% of the players in the CFL don't have the talent to play in the NFL. Now, there are some guys that have played in the NFL, but they couldn't stay in the NFL. 1, 2, 3 year veterans in the NFL, but the CFL, that's another opportunity. And Colin shouldn't have to play in the CFL. It's great to see that Colin is able to get some support by the most prominent, especially quarterbacks. Cam, that was nice because Cam didn't have this stance for a long time. So Cam, like a lot of people, reluctantly has been drug into this based on kind of the challenge that was issued last week by the president. So Cam, like a lot of other players, he was very uncomfortable. He went to ownership. He went to Mr. Richardson, had a heart-to-heart talk with him. Then Cam came out with this statement and saying that there would be some type of demonstration of support this weekend. So that will be interesting going forward. But like a lot of players, Nick, you mentioned this. We don't have strong political views. Like sometimes we don't know how to express them. Now, as far as Colin Kaepernick, it seems as if a lot of people now are fighting his battle. He has more support than he's ever had. And Jenna, you and I have gone back and forth with Nick, should he talk? I do believe at some point there is no better voice for a person's concern than your own voice. It's going to be a time and point where Colin needs to speak for himself, and it's going to be coming up very, very soon because we've muddied the waters as far as social inequality and now the national anthem. But I believe that the NFL, through meetings with owners and other players, they're going to try to come up with something to be able to separate this. Malcolm Jenkins, safety for the Philadelphia Eagles, he's very clear as far as what this is really about. If you ever want to read something good, listen to a lot of his interviews. Doug Baldwin was on a news network the other night. Very, very clear as far as objectives of what people are trying to accomplish. But I believe that Cam, like a lot of other players, because they were forced, that now they will begin to support Colin in a way that we hadn't seen. But there is going to be a time and point, what I believe the breaking point, that Colin's going to have to speak for himself.
A few things. I don't know why there's going to come a time. I mean, if there is a time, in my opinion, this is the time. This is the time where both the sports world and the non-sports world, attention is on the NFL. Politicians, focused on the NFL. People that were never fans of the NFL, focused on the NFL. If Colin Kaepernick was kneeling because he wanted to bring attention to an issue that he had, which, by the way, is an extremely important issue, and I do not want that to get lost on this, that I support fully why Colin Kaepernick was kneeling. My issue back then was the way he was protesting. My issue now is, now that we're all listening, now that you did kneel, we're all listening, please say something. But take that aside. My question now is, it seems very convenient for this to be the time that all these other players are coming out. I wonder why we didn't hear from these players last year.
Out of fear for their job.
Okay, out of fear for their job.
They knew it was a red hot button issue and fear for their job.
Which takes away a little bit of the authenticity of what they're saying. I do believe they agree, but they didn't agree so much that they wanted to risk their job.
Jenna,
or risk
of course, Jenna, everyone didn't sign up for that.
I understand. So
hold on, but let's not. What we do know is this: while there weren't as many players protesting prior to President Trump's comments, there were some. There were 0 owners on board. So let's be fair here. Like, if we're talking about, it's an American issue, it's an important issue. And I thought Eric Reed had a brilliant point yesterday. Eric Reed, one of Kaepernick's teammates.
Yes.
Man that knelt with Kaepernick.
Still plays on San Francisco. Still a starter.
Eric Reed, in a 20-second soundbite yesterday, was outstanding. He said, I love football. Every single day I come into work to try to get better at football. I love my country.
To be the absolute best.
Why would I not work every single day to try to improve my country the way I try to improve myself, my ability?
He also talked about the expectations of his job, to be his absolute best, and the pressure that he has every day to walk into that building, to live up to those expectations of the other great 49ers of past history.
But this is where we are just going to have something of a disconnect. I understand the logic behind. If there was ever going to be a time to talk, now would be the time to talk. I also have a bit of, if I may be, I guess this might sound a little sexist, but kind of old Italian male stubbornness in me. And I can see myself saying, you know what? I shouldn't have to. I cannot tell you how many times in my life I know things, whether it's in my marriage, just apologize. Even if you didn't do anything, just apologize. Make your life easier. If just go to the, how many times I've shown you emails, CC, work emails, that I'm like, when I press send, this makes my life harder, sending it anyway, based on principle. And I believe, it's because I don't believe Colin to be an illogical guy. His principled stand is, this is about, can I play? No interview will show anyone that I can play. So why should I have to talk?
Is the conversation about whether Colin Kaepernick wants to play football?
No.
And don't scream and don't get mad. Let me just finish the question. Is it whether he wants to play football, or is it whether he wants this to be the most important thing in his life right now? The issue I have is that we don't know. I don't know what the most important thing is. It's clearly not just to play football. He only wants to play in the NFL. And you make a very good point. You're right. You play in the CFL because you're not good enough yet to play in the NFL. But the NFL isn't calling to offer him a job. The CFL is calling. So if it's about playing football, go play football. If you want to make a statement, then just make a statement. And it is very easy.
You shouldn't play in a league that is beneath your skill level just because you've taken a political... What?
But then don't complain that you're not playing. If you just want to play football, play football.
Wait a second.
Whoa, I'm just curious, Jenna.
Did you see Mike Glennon last night? Wait a second. Did you see him?
And he struggled mightily. I understand.
Jenna,
I understand he should be playing football in the NFL. There's no, I don't have an issue with that.
No, but you do. Wait, stop.
Can I finish my second
Mike Glennon should be playing in the CFL. Did you tell him that?
Well,
no, they gave him $45 million in Chicago.
Well, I didn't give him $45 million.
But you're representing the case of other players.
He wants two things. He wants to make sure that people understand what his cause is and why he started this.
He wants to do what every other American wants to do. He wants to play at the highest level in every profession. That's what people do. Other people aren't taking other jobs just because they have a political stance.
Seemingly every other person who's playing with him has been able to come out. Whether you said it, Cam Newton's not known for coming out and talking politics and expressing himself. You said a lot of players have a hard time expressing themselves.
No better person to make an example of than the guy that started it. Of course, the other guys aren't being penalized for it.
Of course not.
Because they did it with permission.
Okay.
And the idea that, I want to say, not necessarily to you, but to anyone saying, why wouldn't you go play in the CFL? Do you know how many Americans right now are out of work with job offers, but it is beneath their skill level? There are a lot of people in our profession who, I promise you, the local news in Wisconsin would love to hire them. But they're like, you know what? I was doing this on the biggest stage. I am not going to either belittle myself or take a job beneath my skill level. None of us, if any of us at this table got fired from this show tomorrow, we could be employed the next day. But it might be a job that we're like, you know what? I'm better than that. I've proven I'm better than that. I'm going to wait for the right job. And
you have a right to. I understand. It's well within your right.
And it is, go ahead.
It's well within your right to do that. I don't know how badly he wants. This all goes back to my point.
Okay,
I don't know if he wants to play football or he only wants to play in the NFL.
Jenna, then you're not believing him. Then him speaking wouldn't matter.
No,
because he has
said.
It has never been verbalized he does not want to play football.
And his agent has said he wants to play. You believe Cris? He told Cris he wants to play. He just did an interview. You're asking him to talk. He did an interview with Sean King in the New York Daily News where he said he wants to play.
Okay.
So we know he wants to play.
Wants to play. I don't know. What I don't know is how he feels about everything that's happening. And I just want to go back to your one point, and then we do have to break, which you said a lot of guys have a hard time expressing themselves. I fully understand that. There are a lot of issues that I'm not very good at expressing myself on. But it does not require the means by which one can express themselves does not require a gigantic platform. It does not require a 30-minute sit down with someone. It does not require coming on our show. It could be as simple as saying,
I'm not going to say you're wrong.
Thank you.
Because it's
No,
just your
I know
opinion.
how you feel.
And
It's
your
just
opinion
my
can't be
opinion.
wrong. All right? But we disagree.
Oh, I'm quite aware.
Listen, he retweeted our segment about him, saying he wants to play and saying he's good enough
He
to
didn't
play.
say anything. He retweeted a segment.
Okay.
Just say something. Why is it so difficult?
Because he doesn't have to do what you want him to do.
He doesn't have
and it
to,
shouldn't
you're
keep him
right.
out of work. It shouldn't keep him out of work.
Well, it is keeping him out of work, and it
No,
shouldn't.
what's keeping it? Jenna, he
but
could
it
do
is.
a 3-hour interview today on this show. He ain't getting no damn job. It is just, it was free agency was keeping him out of work. The draft was keeping him out of work. There weren't any injuries were keeping him out of work. There's too many good quarters keeping. It's just the next thing. And once he does the interview, guess what? He still ain't got no damn job.
Ezekiel Elliott has run for just 64 yards a game, 3.5 yards a carry, only 1 touchdown this season. Off his numbers a bit from his rookie season a year ago, but even when he ripped off the longest run of his season, a 30-yard rush in week 3, media members still asking if he's lost a step. Take a listen.
Zeke, there were some people that talking about that 3rd and 1 where you're saying you didn't think you could have stayed vertical. Some people are saying that's a play last year you take to the house, and they're saying that maybe you're a half a step slower. The people that are saying that, what's your response to that?
Shut up.
Fair enough. So you don't feel like you're any slower?
No.
No. Okay.
I literally hate when news directors are like, ask him if he's off from last year. And then you have to stand right here and ask him a question.
What I hate more than that, Jenna, is the way that is. I don't know that gentleman that was the reporter. I'm sure he's a great man. However, and that however's doing a lot of work there. Yeah. The question construct of a lot of people are saying, not me.
I did a survey.
I would never say it.
It's a good hiding place.
Went out on the street, asked a bunch of people.
AKA myself.
They say, not me, that last year you would have taken that one to the house. All right. Well, I don't think he watched the video because let's just get with some just easy stuff. You know who ended up tackling?
Tell me, CC.
Patrick Peterson, number 21. Definitely one of the best 10 athletes in the NFL. In the combine, when he came into the league, what's he run? 4.3. A lot faster than Zeke. So the people he talked to obviously didn't know anything about the personnel, realized that Patrick Peterson had a tremendous angle on him. Zeke couldn't even get wide open. Now, Zeke has been known to have pure breakaway track speed, all right? Sure. In high school, he was a track champion. At Ohio State, you never see Zeke run down. He ran right through the heart of Alabama and everyone else except Michigan State. He had 2 bad games in college, right? Yep. Because they didn't give him the football. Zeke is too young. This offseason was one of the best offseasons Zeke has ever had.
Football-wise.
Yes. Last season, Zeke wasn't able to lift as much as he would like to. He wasn't able to do much conditioning. He was getting used to the NFL, the banging every week. So that took away a lot. This offseason, he recommitted himself. He's an avid weightlifter, workout guy. He's got tremendous endurance. I mean, Zeke is in better, even though the numbers, because it's hard to live up to last year, he's in better shape mentally and physically to have a better year. He just needs some help and needs some open holes.
Let's just pull out for a second and ask the broader question is, Zeke, Dak, Dez, maybe, are the Cowboys better? Could they be better than they were last year? And it's a high bar.
I'm going to answer that question. I just want one note on, the number's a little misleading on Zeke because the sample size is so small. Game 1 and game 3, you put those together, he's pacing just for what he had last season. Yes. It's just because in game 2, it was the worst game of football he's ever played in his life. So it's misleading.
And last year, he didn't get off to some record breaking pace.
If correct, I think his first game as a pro, he had 20 carries for 50 yards. Like, it's a lot of carries and not a lot of yards, give or take a carry or a yard here or there. All right, but it's for the Cowboys. Listen, I have no reason to believe they can't be as good as last year. Doesn't mean they're going to be 13-3 because there was a lot of, if you're 13-3, you could have been 15-1. You could have been 11-5. It means there's a few bounces every season. But because they only have two everyday important players in Witten and Sean Lee that are north of 30 years old, most of their guys are either getting better or in their prime. So I have no reason to believe the Cowboys can't be as good as they were last season.
Well, the reason why you can say something like that, because there were tremendous question marks as far as their defense. One from a rush standpoint. And my God, they have developed a pass rusher. He is definitely one of the best pass rushers in the league, consistently getting pressure. All right. They have a couple rookies on the back end, cornerbacks that they've drafted. All right. They are playing good football. Rod Marinelli, the defensive coordinator, people need to be talking about him more when you talk about Dallas, because he helped develop these young players. Not only have they drafted well as far as the people they target, there's something in drafting, but there's another thing in talent development. And that's what the Cowboys have done. Now, that's why they might have a chance to be better, is because defensively, they've really developed these players, that these players have really covered up some gaping holes that Dallas had, or question marks that they had about their defense.
Welcome back to First Things First. Cam Newton is looking for a bounce-back game this Sunday against the New England Patriots. Cam had a rough performance against the Saints last week, throwing 3 picks and no touchdowns. Fortunately for him, he'll be facing a New England defense that is pacing to be the worst in NFL history. That is not hyperbole. Nick, as president of the Cam Newton fan club, we know you get the T-shirts and the mugs, you get the water bottles and the underwear, but my question to you, is this a make-or-break game for him? I'm sorry about the underwear. I went too far with that one.
I mean, we did go over the college stuff earlier, but is Nick in this role as Cam, the president of the fan club, is this a paid position?
This might be a make-or-break segment for a relationship, Jenna. Listen, after the 2015 season, I thought Cam was about to be, I thought the best quarterbacks in football were going to be Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Cam Newton. And last year, I chalked a lot of it up to he was injured. He was injured. His offensive line was not good. We're still waiting to see if Kelvin Benjamin is going to become the player people thought he could be. And people remember Kelvin Benjamin wasn't even there for the 2015 season because he had gotten injured.
A little nicked up, missed some practice time, but will play Sunday.
Right. So last year I was able to just say, hey, as great as 2015 was, 2016 was that bad. 2017's pacing to be worse. I mean, his total yards, rushing and passing in his 3 games, 174, 255, and 183. This past week against a bad Saints defense, Cam had 3 picks. Now, one of them absolutely 100% not his fault, but 2 of them were awful, and they were on seemingly easy throws to the right hash. So, yes, Cam's got to play well. Panthers don't have to win this game. They're 9-point dogs in New England. Very hard to go into New England and win. But Cam has to play well. We saw Alex Smith, who's good but not great, play well against this defense. Yeah. We saw Drew Brees play well. But most importantly, we saw Deshaun Watson.
In New England.
Second start ever. Play great against this Patriots team. So if Cam can't play well against this Patriots defense, when Jenna says pace can be worse in NFL history, it's not like a guess. They are on pace to give up more yards than any team in the history of pro football. Of course Cam's got to play well.
Let me ask you a question following up with what he said. There's no way, and you know Bill Belichick a lot better than I do, or any of us here, that he's going to go 4 games with this defense being as bad as it is. I just don't see it. I don't see us going, wow, every game this season. I feel like at some point the defense has to turn around and make a breakthrough. That being said, is this the kind of thing where if Cam comes out against the defense the way it is, makes a couple completions, has a couple of good runs, all of a sudden gets a little bit of his mojo back, he could actually have a good game? Or is it so far past it at this point?
No. Cam is a streak shooter. I mean, he's a streaky jump shooter. I mean, he get the first couple to go in. Watch out. I mean, he could pour it on you. But Cam, the thing you miss, Nick, is, and it's not because when you make yourself available to be on the field, fans think everyone's 100%. But Cam's not 100%. Cam is hurt. All right, now the new norm for Cam is take some time off during the week now, get a couple practices, get the game plan at the end of the week, And that is not the normal sequence for you, which you want to install your offense week in and week out. So what they're trying to do is be able to manage how much he can practice because of his shoulder. Now, because Cam could throw the ball. He can throw the ball with anyone in the NFL. All right? Now, does he have the touch, the variety of throws that people like Aaron Rodgers? No. But Cam is failing at things that he used to do well. And the reason why is because he's trying to force the ball. He hasn't had a great deal of practice time. Now, they're trying to do some new things offensively. But if Cam wants to get back to being a dominant quarterback, it doesn't start with his arm. It starts with his legs.
There we go.
Man, get out the pocket.
Man, how many times do you think he's run the ball?
I've been holding this off on you,
Okay,
Nick.
go ahead.
Right?
Let me hear it. Let me sit back. Sorry.
But this is where the practice, I remember one of my worst seasons ever, had nothing to do with me losing a step. I had a couple reporters like the guy in Dallas asked Zeke, Cris, you lost a step. No, they didn't realize I got my ankle cleaned out that offseason. Had a hard time pushing off for the first 6 games. So I'm out there trying to grind, trying to manage my pain, trying to play to the level that people expected me because what I had established. But off-season ankle surgery came into the season. People look at me, you look healthy, you look the same, but I wasn't the same. Probably till like the end of October. So Cam, this is part of being an NFL quarterback. It'd be different if it was his knee, his ankle, any other injury, but it is his shoulder, all right? And you can see that he's still suffering from lack of practice time, and that injury is not one that heals just because the doctors say, you know something, you're going to be ready to throw in 2 months. You know who he's talking to, Nick? He's talking to you and your homeboys. He's not talking to an NFL player. A normal player, a normal injury in any other athlete, they just come back and they start throwing, they take their time. No, Cam had to get back into NFL and start NFL practices and play in NFL games.
All right, so I looked this up last night, and it was jarring because I've watched all these games, but even this number jumped out to me. Cam's run the ball this year on first down 3 times. 3 times he's run the ball on first down. The read option is gone from that offense.
Right.
He has a hurt shoulder. Like you said, not a hurt knee. These Patriot linebackers stink. With respect, I don't know how to respectfully say someone stinks, but they stink.
They got no speed.
They have no speed.
This is one of the least talented linebacking groups that Bill Belichick has ever had. Now, you mentioned they will get better.
They have to.
They'll get better as the season progresses, but they won't get more talented.
And they won't get faster. It ain't no getting faster.
It doesn't matter if they get more talented. They have to stop quarterbacks. They have to stop offenses. Of course,
so, but the point that I'm making with Cam and that I think Cris is making, I was glad to hear it, is Cam, you got to get back to what you do. You know you do great. If your shoulder isn't fully healthy, and I wasn't going to sit here and blame it on injuries because I am a believer that if you're out there, you're going to be held to a high standard.
And that means well, but it just doesn't always hold up.
It's totally fair. But I didn't, as Jenna put it, I didn't want to, as president of the Cam Newton fan club, be out here making excuses. One thing I know he can do is still run the football. I know he can still run the football, and I know that opens up the other parts of the offense more for him. I'm going to point something else out. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be awesome. I think Christian McCaffrey was one of the most dynamic college players I've ever seen. And people maybe underrated is how dynamic he was because he's a white dude at Stanford. But this kid could do everything.
Yes.
And I was excited to see him when the Panthers drafted him. But you can't force it to him. You can't go from being dead last in the league in passes to the running back to being one of the top teams in the league in passes to a running back. You've got to find a better balance. That's what the Panthers need to do this week against New England.
Welcome back to First Things First. The Baltimore Ravens are dead last in offense heading into Sunday's matchup against the Steelers, but don't tell the Ravens that. It doesn't mean Joe Flacco is worried. Here's the Ravens quarterback.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves when we all of a sudden start saying we haven't played well for 3 weeks. We played terribly last week. There's no way around that. But the other 2 weeks, we did what we had to do to win football games. I don't think that's anything that we can hang our head over.
Ray, what do you think? Should Joe Flacco be a little bit more concerned with the state of the Ravens offense at this point?
No, I don't think he should. I think they're where they want to be. The first 2 games, you go back to those games, they leaned on their defense. They said, this is who we're playing against. Now, they find themselves in London against Jacksonville, and nobody didn't play well that week. So I think everybody needs to come back and play way better this week. But I think when you think about what they have to figure out, he has to figure out how to work with Macklin now. He has to figure out how these pieces actually add up with each other. If you don't have chemistry, I keep telling people this all the time. You bring guys from different places all the time and think you can just plug them in sometimes. It works sometimes.
Right.
But a lot of times in systems like this, sometimes it don't work as quickly as you want it to work. So you give them another 4 or 5 weeks, and then you may see a totally different offense. So I'm kind of with Joe. It might be very quick to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, man, the Ravens in trouble super early, right? I think this week's game is a really, really big game for both Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Yeah. Right? Because if you take another loss in the AFC, I think that can be damaging later in the year. So we'll see what happens with them coming up this week.
Listen, nothing speaks to television ratings bonanza like talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. But let me do it for just a moment because
they're good.
That defense,
they're really good.
If I were to say who was the single best front 7 player a team acquired in free agency this offseason.
Calais Campbell.
And if I were to say who is the single best secondary player a team acquired in free agency this season, might be A.J. Bouye.
Yes. Absolutely.
Jacksonville got them both.
They got them both.
So, like, nobody cares about the Jags because Blake Bortles is their quarterback and they're the Jags, and they haven't been good since Mark Brunell was throwing to Keenan McCardell and Jimmy Smith. But that Jags defense is going to hurt a lot of people this year. And so the Ravens...
They're physical. They are physical.
And so I think that's one of the things that people are like, oh, you got blown out by the Jags. That Jags defense is good. Yeah. And if you allow them to get a lead to where they don't have to rely on Bortles...
Pin the ears back.
Right.
We coming straight forward. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not in the business of making excuses for NFL teams because there's certain expectations we expect out of professional players we don't expect out of amateur. Professional football is totally different and what we expect out of that than college football. But there were several teams based on the climate in the NFL and the climate in the U.S., there were several teams that were visibly distracted by what they were going to do before the game and leading up to the game, and it showed on the field. Now, 2 of my favorite coaches, all right, John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, those 2 franchises struggled more with this than any of the other franchises. Why? I don't know the answer why, but it was obvious these teams did not play the way I'm used to watching these coaches and their teams play. This was not a Pittsburgh on the road thing. It was not a Baltimore on the road thing. I believe that this was an NFL protest became a huge distraction because how these quarterbacks played, Super Bowl champions, Flacco, Roethlisberger, both of them conflicted because they have teammates who want to do something, and as team leaders, they didn't know which side to stand on. So it became very, very difficult for me watching them play and seeing the results of the game. Yes, Jacksonville's a lot better. One of the up-and-coming corners, Jalen Ramsey, he should be in the Pro Bowl. Look at his numbers, the amount of attempts, completions, when his receivers targeted. He is an outstanding, will be in Hawaii at the end of this season.
Great call.
So you have to give him credit. But Baltimore has the luxury. They've been doing this for 15 years. And you know whose fault it is? It's his fault.
Wait.
They got the luxury of saying, hey, the offense is struggling. You know how many times Ray Lewis, they say, hey, man, your offense is last in the NFL. You in the bottom. Oh, it don't matter, man. We gonna get them. They ain't gonna score enough points to win. All right? We got it. We gonna hold this down. But that's not the team they have now. And they have enough firepower that this offense should be a lot better. But I'm going to take you back to the talking point of the year. Besides offensive linemen, it's quarterback in practice. Joe Flacco had a bad back all through training camp. That's why they should have signed Cap. He didn't have a lot of reps with these new wide receivers. So you see the struggle in the offense because of those things. Watch Baltimore will be a lot better this week.
Yeah.
We haven't figured out what's going to happen before the game. I mean, we're now closer to that being not, a non-distraction as we were last week. Do we know any more about how they're going to keep that from spilling onto the team?
Teams have now had a week to figure it out instead of just
What happened last week happened on Friday.
Yeah.
The president spoke on a Friday in Alabama, and the teams had a short time with them being in London to react. Now they have a group of owners that have met with the commissioner with a group of players. So I think the preparation time will help them in getting ready for the game.
I want to.
So no distractions.
Well,
you can't use that as a
I don't think it'll be
distraction.
nearly what it was last week. But I want to, if I may, I want to ask Ray, because I know we don't have a ton of time, one thing about this specific game. Because you played plenty of games against Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
And he's not a mobile quarterback, but man, he might be the hardest quarterback in the league to bring down.
He's way more mobile than you think he is.
Right. He's not the stereotypical mobile quarterback
Right.
that they're calling runs for him.
Right.
But
Ben
man,
is a better athlete just because his body looks like that.
Chubby face.
Played basketball in high school.
And much bigger than you think he is.
Played wide receiver in high school until his last year because the coach of his high school team, his son, he thought was a better quarterback than Ben.
Right.
That's why he went to the University of Miami and wasn't highly recruited.
Okay, so here's my thing. You and I, during the break, were talking about the different strategies teams need against Tom Brady. Now, there's certain quarterbacks, hey, you don't blitz him, you do this.
Right.
If you're trying to beat a Ben Roethlisberger quarterback team that has all its weapons, Bell, Brown, Bryant, what's the strategy going into that game for Baltimore should be what?
Oh, I mean, to pressure him, of course. Yeah, you got to get to Ben. Ben is a different quarterback now, because if one guy gets to him, you better have 2 or 3 coming after that. You know, because he's just that guy. He's not going to run as fast, right? And that's the thing that kind of tricks you. So when guys take angles and he's running slow, he's running past him and he's stopping throwing the ball. Listen, as many times I played this guy, the one thing we used to always work on at practice was plaster. Plaster, meaning when the receiver's downfield, when he breaks the pocket, just turn around and look at your receiver and just plaster him all day. Because Ben Roethlisberger is one of the rare quarterbacks who has that ability to find some way to get out of the pocket. And when we're sitting there, we're like, how did he get out of that? Like sometimes, I mean, you hit him and he ducks up under you and you go running off his shoulders. He's just one of those crafty quarterbacks and he's always played like that because it's schoolyard football, right? All it is move the chains. And that's why it's very hard to play against him. He's not finna be the one to sit back there and say, hey, guys, I'm going to sit back in the pocket all day and just pick you apart. Absolutely not. He's saying, look, whatever it takes to win the football game, that's what I'm going to do to win the game. And if that means scramble 5, 10, 7 times a game, then that's what we're going to do. And that's what makes him very difficult to defend.
Ray, thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Ray. Great
Much
weekend.
appreciated.
Yeah.
We're moving on to the NBA now, Nick. Now that the dust has settled with all the crazy NBA moves this offseason, Vegas, you know Vegas, Nick.
Oh.
Vegas is settling on MVP odds. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, all tied as MVP favorites at 5-1, according to Sportsbook.com. Nick, tell us what's going through your head with regards to LeBron.
All right, Jenna, you weren't wrong, by the way. I didn't know you were going to find a way to combine LeBron and gambling, so I apologize for cutting
These
you
are
off.
a few of my favorite things.
So LeBron James has not won the MVP award in the last 4 years. Now, we all know he probably should have won 10 of the last 10. Best player in the world, most impactful player in the world. But it looked like he was done winning MVP awards.
Yeah, he shouldn't have won last year, sitting out all those games and everything. But
He didn't sit out all that many games. I think he sat out 7 games, but whatever. Last year was
one
his
of them I was
first.
supposed to watch him with the Clippers. He didn't play against the
Oh,
Clippers.
okay, there we
He
go.
played against
There's
the Lakers.
Chris's real bitterness. Last year was the first year in 9 seasons where he finished outside of the top 3 in MVP voting. He was 4th last year. He had 8 straight top 3 finishes. So why would LeBron in year 15, all of a sudden, when he started this offseason, 6th most likely to win the MVP according to Vegas, why would he now be tied for 1st? Well, it's because all of a sudden of the candidates, LeBron has maybe the least accomplished number 2 option. Kevin Durant's a leading candidate. His number 2 option is the guy that was a 2-time MVP. Steph's a candidate. His number 2 option's Kevin Durant. James Harden. All of a sudden, his number 2 option is Chris Paul. Russell Westbrook. All of a sudden, his number 2 option is Paul George. LeBron James. All of a sudden, his number 2 option is in Boston. In Kyrie Irving. Like, does LeBron James have...
And his number 3 option doesn't start till January. And his number 4 option is not a number 4 option. It's back to LeBron.
And so and Kevin Love's still a good player, but the Isaiah being out, the Cavs really relying on LeBron to run the point maybe early on as Derrick Rose gets acclimated, he could put up some of the gaudy stats that could set the conversation in his favor to win his 5th MVP and tie Michael Jordan in that category.
I'm going with King Petty, Kevin Durant.
Oh, man.
Yes. King Petty, he's motivated. Pressure off of him. Championship intact. MVP of the finals. There is not a series or a sequence of basketball where I saw Kevin Durant play with more confidence. And I believe that what happened in the finals will only empower him. I believe that what happened this offseason, as far as social media and everything, it will be a speed bump. He'll get back to doing what Kevin Durant does better than anyone else. Now, score the basketball, and I think that will lead him to being the MVP 2018.
Does a pro athlete go into a season with a priority of sort of benchmarks that you want to hit? Like, I wonder what's more important to LeBron James, like winning it all or winning the MVP. And I know those are not mutually exclusive, but I wonder if you had to choose.
Oh, if he
obviously
would choose,
heuld want to win.
He would choose the championship. But the MVPs are very important to him.
Tell me why.
Because he knows, he has said it, he is chasing the ghost of Michael Jordan. It's going to be incredibly difficult for him to reach Chris's threshold, which is the 6 rings.
Yes.
So he's going to have to do it in other ways. LeBron's got 4 MVPs. Jordan and Russell have 5. Kareem has 6. That's the list. So, okay, if I get one more MVP, now I've tied Michael in that regard. I'm already going to have passed him in every other category.
But you're a LeBron guy. You're a Michael Jordan guy. If he wins MVP this year, do you inch LeBron closer to Michael Jordan, or is it always going to be about the titles for you?
No. Winning MVP in year 15 would be significant.
But would you bring him up to where you are? You guys have battled on this for a long time over who the best is.
No, he still's not there. I mean, we know that. I mean, I told you my math. In Cleveland, he gets credit for 2 for every 1.
Okay.
So, all right. So if he's able to win MVP and win another championship in Cleveland, beating one of the best teams of all time twice, all right? 2 in Miami, 2 in Cleveland. The 2 in Cleveland equal 4, which equals 6. That's that Ohio State, 3 years of math.
See?
Yes.
I want to, going into this offseason, I agreed with you, by the way. I think I said either on this show or on The Herd at some point, my money would have been on Durant going into this offseason. But then so much changed. Most notably, LeBron losing his number 2 option. Now, Isaiah Thomas is a good player, but as Jenna very importantly pointed out, he's going to not be around for the first third of the season, first half of the season. LeBron having to, get acclimated, all these new teammates, and what appears to be an extra motivated LeBron. The MVP stuff really matters to him. If you even remember when Steph won it, he said, listen, there's a difference between most valuable and best. Like, he was trying to make the point, like, listen, y'all can give this trophy to somebody else, but we all know who the best actually is. On your Durant point, Durant would enter pretty hallowed ground. Only 13 guys have at least 2 MVPs. Durant's got the 1. A whole bunch of guys have one MVP. Durant would win, being join Steph and Steve Nash and a bunch of other guys that have, 13 other guys that have 2 or more.
Does LeBron know how much you like him?
No.
Hold up.
Does LeBron know that you're obsessed with him? I'm just curious.
Okay, so Jenna, this is now the first real fracture in our relationship.
Oh.
So I would like, because I feel like you are speaking for some of the audience here, and so now I would like to address them via you.
Okay, go ahead.
I talk about sports for a living. I happen to be talking about sports during an era of the greatest athlete in the history of the world. So I would be negligent in my job if I ignored this. I would imagine, like, if I was a physics talk show host in 1920, I'd probably talk about Einstein a lot. Like, these are these things that are the prerequisites for what I do for a living. It's not about an obsession. It's about a respect for greatness. That's
you know what this is?
It
is a big old heart right there.
You should read those words.
Coming up.
Jenna, LeBron knows.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern on FS1. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.